Hi everyone, it's Julie from sproutsandstems.com here. Today's video is going to be prayer plant care. Before I get into that, please take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any new planty content from me. And if you'd like to further support my channel, consider checking out my YouTube membership or Patreon. You'll get exclusive content and more perks. And both of those links are down in the description. Also linked in the description will be any supplies that I mentioned today. And now we'll get into the video. So to start off, we'll talk about the leaves and how they're pointed up like this. This is called Nyctinastic movement. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that correctly, but not totally sure. But it actually is a plant's circadian rhythm. And not all plants have this, but some plants do, and prayer plants are pretty well known for having that rhythm. They run on a 24-hour clock, and at night they'll lift their leaves up like this, and then during the day they'll fold them back down or like spread them out more. Scientists aren't totally sure why some plants do this. There's some theories. I believe the main theory, or one of the main theories, is it helps with temperature regulation at night. And yeah, it's really cool. Sometimes if the room is really quiet, you can kind of hear a little rustle of a leaf and see it kind of like pop a little bit. So that's super cool. And this is also how this plant gets the name prayer plant, because they're supposed to look like folded hands in prayer when the leaves are up like this. You have to use your imagination a little bit on that one, but that is where they get the name prayer plants from. And this plant, by the way, is a Maranta silver band. I want to make sure I actually show you the surface of the leaves too. Maranta silver band. Picked it up recently from a local plant store. And yeah, and another thing is that I just wanted to mention is that prayer plants do flower. They have pretty little white and purple flowers. They actually are like pretty cute looking. A lot of houseplants don't have the most attractive flowers, but they do flower little cute little dainty flowers, and that just means that you're doing a good job because your plant is happy, and so you might see those every once in a while. Bright indirect light is best if you want them to stay nice and full and bushy like this. They can tolerate a moderate amount of light and low light. They'll grow a little bit like spindly and leggy, so just keep that in mind. But bright indirect light is best. For water, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Prayer plants are relatively low maintenance, but the watering part can get a little tricky. They like to remain evenly, consistently moist. So you can water your prayer plant again when it's dry, about an inch down. And something that I like to do for plants that like even consistent moisture is, instead of waiting a while and then watering a ton all at once, water a little bit more frequently, but just a little water at a time in the pot. So that might work well for you if you find yourself struggling with proper moisture. On the subject of moisture, that is one thing about prayer plants. They're not as sensitive as calatheas to proper moisture. At least I haven't found them to be. While they're not as sensitive, they definitely will start to curl up a little bit or get like dry, crispy tips if they're too dry or just unhappy with the watering schedule in general. And same thing with humidity. So prayer plants do like higher humidity levels. You might notice some brown crispy tips or wrinkliness. Exhibit A, if it gets too dry. I've been blasting the AC recently because it started to get really hot here, and I think my plant is feeling that a little bit. The thing with prayer plants is that they'll show you for the most part if they're unhappy, but if your plant is overall growing and overall happy, then you shouldn't stress a few like crispy tips or wrinkly leaves here and there. So for repotting your prayer plant, They don't mind being a little bit root bound. A good general rule of thumb is every other year or so. I've definitely gone many years not repotting prayer plants, but my general rule of thumb is if it's growing fine and putting out new growth consistently and it looks healthy, then I'm not going to repot it just because it's been 2 years. 2 years is a good general rule of thumb just to like check up on your plant. If you notice some stunted growth or roots coming out of the drainage holes, like I said, they don't mind being a little root bound, but those are signs that they're getting too root bound. So it's time for a bigger pot, and you can repot your plant in a pot 1 to 2 sizes larger. Depends on how like big your plant is. Always try to make sure it has a drainage hole because it's just everything's better with a drainage hole. I just watered it, so it's like getting a little bit heavy and my arm is getting a little bit shaky. In terms of mix, potting mix, a well draining potting mix is perfectly fine. Any bag that you pick up from the store, the garden center, the grocery store is generally going to be fine. Just a general well draining houseplant potting mix. Well draining because while you want that even moisture, you don't want it to be like sopping wet all the time. So there still has to be a drainage element to it. And last but not least, for fertilizing, you can use a general houseplant fertilizer, a water-soluble fertilizer diluted by half strength every other week. And that's only in the growing season, the spring and summer. So this is a pretty small, compact plant right now, but all of these are vines, and eventually they'll grow and spread, and they make really cool looking hanging plants too. The leaves are just kind of like they're just really, really cool leaves. They're unlike any other trailing plant, so I highly recommend picking up a prayer plant. They're a little bit tricky, but not too tricky. And I have a propagation tutorial that I put out last week, so check that out if you want to know how to propagate prayer plants. I show you exactly where to cut. Tomorrow I'm going to film it during the day so you could see the leaves like folded down in their normal position. Okie dokie, it is the next morning, and I just wanted you to see the leaves now that they're all spread out flat. If you can hear a noise in the background, it's the dryer. Hopefully it's not too loud. I don't think it is. But yeah, so this is prayer plant in its downward position, or its normal position. And this is Marantas silver band. Pretty silver streaks on the leaves. Gorgeous. Beautiful. Got some new leaves coming in. So that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Please subscribe to my channel. Remember to check out my propagation tutorial if you're interested in that. Look how big this leaf is. I love it. And have a great day. Goodbye.